Welcome to my channel, Hotspot with Loveth, the ultimate spot for all things entertainment, ranging from celebrity gists, reviews, interesting stories, and African folktales. Subscribe now. Sarah Wright had always been organized, a trait that served her well as a rising architect in Lagos. Born and raised in the bustling city, she was accustomed to its fast pace and the demand for excellence in every sphere of life. She had just returned from a week-long business trip in Johannesburg, where she had pitched her firm's design for a luxury resort. The trip was a success, and Sarah was eager to return to her life in Lagos, where a new project awaited her attention. The heat of the afternoon sun mixed with the chaotic energy of Murtala Mohammed International Airport as she stood by the luggage carousel. People around her seemed lost in the flurry of their own worlds, some excited, others worried, all caught in the flow of life in one of Africa's most vibrant cities. Sarah watched the conveyor belt rotate with impatience, scanning the bags that passed by. Finally, she spotted her suitcase, a sleek black number that was as much a part of her professional image as her neatly pressed suits. She reached out, grabbed it, and quickly moved toward the exit, eager to escape the airport and get home. Meanwhile, across the terminal, Akin Adewale was also collecting his luggage. Akin was a free-spirited photographer known for capturing the raw beauty of Nigeria's landscapes and the resilience of its people. He had just returned from a photography assignment in Accra, where he had spent days exploring the hidden corners of the city, documenting life as it unfolded naturally. Unlike Sarah, Akin was in no rush. He enjoyed the bustle of the airport, seeing it as a microcosm of the world, different lives intersecting for brief moments before diverging again. He spotted his own suitcase, a black one with a distinctive red tag, and picked it up. Slinging his camera bag over his shoulder, he sauntered toward the exit, thinking about the pictures he had taken and the stories they would tell. Neither Sarah nor Akin noticed that they had picked up the wrong luggage. The next morning, Sarah woke up early, ready to dive into work. Her phone buzzed with emails from clients and colleagues, and her mind was already ticking through her to-do list as she reached for her suitcase to unpack. She unzipped it, expecting to see her neatly packed clothes and work materials, but was instead greeted by a jumble of items that clearly weren't hers. There were several brightly colored t-shirts, a pair of worn-out jeans, a camera tripod, and a stack of notebooks filled with scribbled handwriting. At first, she thought she must have made a mistake. But as she rummaged through the bag, it became clear this wasn't her suitcase. "What on earth?" she muttered, her frustration growing. She needed her work materials for a meeting later that day, and now they were lost somewhere in Lagos. On the other side of the city, Akin was having a similar realization. He had woken up late, planning to spend the morning editing his photos, but his plans were interrupted when he opened his suitcase. Instead of his clothes, he found neatly folded blouses, a couple of fashion magazines, and a leather-bound planner filled with meticulous notes and sketches. This is trouble, oh, Akin said to himself, shaking his head. He rifled through the bag, hoping to find something that would tell him who it belonged to. At the bottom, he found a business card tucked inside a notebook. It read, "Sarah Wright, Senior Architect, Lagos Urban Design Firm." Sarah Wright, he said, committing the name to memory. He quickly grabbed his phone and called the number on the card. Sarah was on the verge of a full-blown panic attack when her phone rang. She glanced at the screen, not recognizing the number, but answered it anyway, hoping it might be someone with information about her suitcase. "Hello," she said, trying to keep her voice calm. "Hi, is this Sarah Wright?" A male voice responded. "Yes, who is speaking?" "My name is Akin Adewale. I think I have your suitcase." Sarah's relief was palpable. "Oh, thank God. I have yours too. I don't know how this happened, but we need to meet and exchange them. I have a very important meeting today, and I need my materials." "Sure, no problem," Akin said, his tone easygoing. "Where would you like to meet?" After a brief discussion, they agreed to meet at a cafe in Victoria Island, halfway between Sarah's office and Akin's apartment in Lekki. Sarah quickly dressed and headed out, hoping that the morning's disruption wouldn't ruin her day. The cafe was a cozy spot with a view of the bustling streets of Victoria Island. Sarah arrived first, nervously tapping her foot as she waited. She couldn't help but wonder what kind of person Akin was. His belongings had given her a glimpse into his life. Creative, spontaneous, and a bit chaotic, which was the exact opposite of her meticulous nature. A few minutes later, Akin walked in. He was tall, with a warm smile and an easy confidence that put her at ease immediately. He spotted Sarah right away and made his way over, carrying her suitcase. "Sarah, I presume?" he said with a grin. She smiled back, standing to shake his hand. "Yes, Akin, thank you so much for calling. I was really starting to panic." "No problem at all," he said, setting her suitcase down beside her. "I'm just glad we sorted this out quickly. Here's your suitcase." "And here's yours," she replied, handing over his bag. As they sat down for a quick coffee, they started talking, initially about the mix-up, and then about their respective trips. Akin shared stories from his time in Accra, describing the vibrant markets and the people he had met. Sarah talked about her work in Johannesburg and the exciting projects she was working on in Lagos. Their conversation flowed easily, and before they knew it, an hour had passed. Sarah found herself laughing at Akin's stories, enjoying the easy friendship that had sprung up between them. Akin too was surprised by how much he liked talking to Sarah. She was smart, driven, and had a sharp sense of humor that kept him on his toes. As they stood up to leave, Akin hesitated for a moment. "You know, I've really enjoyed talking to you. Maybe we could do this again sometime." Without the suitcase drama, Sarah smiled, feeling an unexpected warmth in her chest. "I'd like that," she said. Over the next few weeks, Sarah and Akin kept in touch. What started as casual texts about their days soon turned into longer conversations, late-night calls, and plans to meet up. They discovered that despite their different backgrounds and lifestyles, they had a lot in common. Both were passionate about their work, loved exploring new places, and had a deep appreciation for the city they called home. Their relationship developed slowly but surely. They spent weekends exploring Lagos together, visiting art galleries in Ikoyi, enjoying the vibrant nightlife in Victoria Island, and taking long walks on the beach in Lekki. Akin introduced Sarah to the world of photography, teaching her how to see the beauty in the mundane. Sarah, in turn, shared her love for architecture, showing Akin the intricate designs hidden in Lagos skyline. One evening, they found themselves at the Lekki Conservation Center, wandering through the forest canopy walkway as the sun set. The air was warm and humid, filled with the sounds of nature. As they reached the highest point of the walkway, they paused to take in the view. "It's beautiful, isn't it?" Akin said, his voice soft. "It is," Sarah agreed, though she wasn't sure if she was talking about the view or the man standing beside her. Akin turned to her, his eyes searching hers. "I'm glad we met, Sarah, even if it was because of a mix-up at the airport." Sarah smiled, feeling her heart race. "Me too, Akin. Me too." As their relationship deepened, Sarah and Akin began to face challenges that tested their bond. One day, as Akin and Sarah sat in his living room, light-heartedly discussing their careers and their demands, their relationship and its future, Akin's phone buzzed on the table, interrupting their conversation. He reached for it absent-mindedly, his focus still on Sarah. But as he unlocked the screen to check the notification, Sarah's eyes inadvertently caught a glimpse of the message that had just come in. Her heart skipped a bit when she saw the words on the screen. "I love you so much, Akin. Let's meet." For a moment, Sarah couldn't breathe. The warmth and connection she had felt just moments before were replaced by a cold rush of fear and betrayal. Her mind raced as she tried to make sense of what she had just seen. Who could be sending such a message to Akin, and why hadn't he mentioned anything about it? Akin noticed the change in Sarah's expression and frowned. "Sarah, what's wrong?" She looked up at him, her eyes searching his face for answers. "Akin, who is that message from?" Confusion crossed his face, and he glanced down at his phone, quickly reading the message. His eyes widened in surprise, then narrowed in frustration as he realized the gravity of the situation. "Sarah, it's not what you think," he began, his voice calm but firm. But Sarah wasn't ready to be calmed. Her mind was already jumping to conclusions, piecing together a story that filled her with dread. Then what is it, Akin? Who is she? Are you seeing someone else? Akin reached out to take her hand, but she pulled back, crossing her arms defensively. He sighed, realizing this wasn't going to be an easy conversation. Sarah, please listen to me. That message is from my ex, Tola. She's been trying to reach out to me for a while, but I haven't responded. I have no interest in getting back with her, I promise you that. Sarah stared at him, her mind struggling to reconcile the man she loved with the message she had just seen. Why didn't you tell me she was contacting you? Akin rubbed the back of his neck, looking uncomfortable. I didn't think it was important, honestly. I didn't want to worry you over something that meant nothing to me. But I see now, I should have been upfront with you about it. Sarah's eyes filled with tears, and she looked away, trying to process what he was saying. So you are telling me that this is just an ex trying to come back to your life, and you did not even think to mention it to me? Yes. Akin said softly, I didn't want to bring up old drama, but I'm sorry, I should have told you. Sarah took a deep breath, trying to calm the storm of emotions raging inside her. She wanted to believe Akin, wanted to trust him, but the fear of being hurt was overwhelming. Akin, how do I know you're telling me the truth? How do I know this isn't something more? Akin looked at her, his eyes filled with sincerity. Sarah, I would never do anything to hurt you. I love you and I want to be with you. Tola is part of my past, and that's where she belongs. I'll show you the messages if you want, or you can come with me when I meet her to tell her in person that I am not interested. Whatever it takes to prove to you that there is nothing going on, I'll do it. Sarah felt a small flicker of hope at his words. Maybe he really was being honest with her. Maybe this was just a misunderstanding that they could work through. But the doubt still lingered like a shadow in the corner of her mind. Okay, she said quietly, show me the messages. Akin nodded, unlocking his phone and handing it to her. Sarah hesitated for a moment, then took the phone and began scrolling through the conversation. The messages from Tola were persistent, affectionate, pleading, and increasingly desperate as Akin continued to ignore them. It was clear that Tola wanted to rekindle their relationship, but just as clear that Akin had not engaged with her at all. As Sarah read through the messages, a wave of relief washed over her, followed quickly by guilt for having doubted Akin. She handed the phone back to him, her expression softening. I'm sorry, Akin, I shouldn't have jumped to conclusions like that. I guess I was scared. Akin took her hand, squeezing it gently. You don't need to apologize. I understand why you were upset, but I want you to know that you are the only one I care about. Tola is in the past, and you are my future. Sarah felt tears prickling at the corners of her eyes, but this time, there were tears of relief, not fear. Thank you for being honest with me, Akin. I just wanted to be sure that we are on the same page, that we are both committed to making this work. We are, Akin said, his voice filled with conviction, and I'm going to prove it to you. Akin knew that he needed to address the issue with Tola directly, to make it clear that there were no possibility of getting back together. He wanted Sarah to feel secure in their relationship, and the only way to do that was to confront his past head-on. They agreed that Akin would meet Tola in a public space and that Sarah would come along, though she would stay out of sight to give them privacy. Akin didn't want to embarrass Tola or make her feel ambushed, but he also wanted Sarah to witness the conversation so that there would be no doubt about his intentions. On the day of the meeting, they chose a small cafe in Surulere, a place Akin knew well. It was quiet and out of the way, the perfect spot for a difficult conversation. Sarah sat in a corner near the back, her heart pounding as she watched Akin take a seat at a table by the window. She could see the tension in his posture, the way he fidgeted with his hands, and it made her nervous. A few minutes later, Tola walked in. She was beautiful, with long braids and a confident stride that made Sarah feel a pang of insecurity. But she quickly pushed those feelings aside, reminding herself that Akin was there to set things straight. Tola spotted Akin and smiled, her face lighting up as she approached him. Akin stood to greet her, but there was no warmth in his expression. He looked serious, determined, and Sarah felt a small surge of pride at how he was handling the situation. Tola, Akin said as they sat down. It's nice meeting you once again. Tola smiled again, though there was a hint of nervousness in her eyes. Of course, Akin, I've missed you. It's been too long. Akin didn't return the smile. Tola, I need to be honest with you. I'm not here to reconnect, but to make it clear that I am in a relationship and I'm not interested in rekindling anything from the past. Tola's smile faltered as she looked at him with confusion. Akin, I don't understand. We were good together before the misunderstandings. Why are you shutting me out? Tola, we had our time. It didn't work out, and it's past. I've moved on, and I'm with someone else now. I care about her deeply, and I don't want anything to come between us. I need you to respect that. Tola looked hurt, her eyes flashing with a mix of emotions, anger, sadness, desperation. But Akin, you never gave us a chance to talk things through. We ended things so abruptly, and I always felt like there was an unfinished business between us. Akin shook his head, his tone gentle but firm. I'm sorry if you felt that way, but there's nothing left to talk about. I've made my choice, and it's not you, Tola. I'm with Sarah now, and she's the one I want to be with. Tola's face crumpled, and for a moment, Sarah felt a pang of sympathy for her. It was clear that Tola hadn't let go of the past, that she still had feelings for Akin. But Sarah also knew that Akin was doing the right thing, and that he was being honest and direct, which was exactly what she needed. Tola's voice trembled as she spoke. I see, so that's it then. You're just going to throw everything away, everything that we had. Akin's expression softened and he reached across the table to take her hand briefly. Tola, we had our good times, but it's time for both of us to move on. I'm sorry if this hurts you, but it's the truth. Tola pulled her hand back, her eyes glistening with tears. I understand, Akin. I thought maybe we could start over, but I see now that it's too late for that. Look, Tola, I know it's never easy to let go of someone you cared about, but sometimes it's the best thing we can do for ourselves and for the people in our lives now. You deserve to find someone who can give you their whole heart, and I deserve to move forward with the person I love without looking back. Tola nodded, wiping away a stray tear. You're right. I've been holding on to the past for too long. Maybe I was just afraid of being alone, but I see now that it's not fair to you or to me. Akin reached out and gave her hand one final squeeze, a gesture of closure and understanding. Thanks for your understanding, Tola. I wish you nothing but happiness. You deserve it. She smiled weakly, managing to hold back more tears. And I wish you the same for you. Akin, your woman is a lucky woman. With that, Tola stood up, signaling the end of the conversation. Akin watched as she walked away, her shoulders slightly slumped, but there was a sense of relief in the way she moved. She had finally received the closure she needed. As Tola left the cafe, Sarah waited a few moments before making her way over to Akin's table. He looked up as she approached, his eyes searching hers for any sign of doubt or fear. But all he saw was the woman he loved, the one he was ready to commit to fully. Sarah sat down next to him, her hand finding his on the table. Thank you, Akin, for being honest, for handling that the way you did. It means a lot to me. Akin squeezed her hands, his gaze steady and full of affection. You mean the world to me, Sarah. I didn't want there to be any more doubts between us. I'm done with the past and I'm ready to build a future with you. Sarah felt a surge of emotion at his words, her heart swelling with love and gratitude. I'm ready too, Akin. I just want us to be open with each other. No more secrets, no more doubts. No more secrets, Akin agreed, his voice firm. And to prove it, I have something I want to ask you. The cafe was quiet now, with only a few patrons lingering over their cups of coffee. The sun was beginning to set outside, casting a warm golden light through the windows. Akin reached into his pocket and pulled out a small velvet box, his heart pounding in his chest. He had planned to do this later in a more romantic setting, but after the event of the day, he realized that there was no better moment than now. Sarah, he began, his voice slightly trembling with nervousness. I've thought about this for a long time. Meeting you was the best thing that ever happened to me. And every day since then, you've made my life better in ways I never imagined. I want to spend the rest of my life with you, facing whatever challenges come our way and building a future together. He opened the box, revealing a simple but elegant diamond ring. The The sight of it took Sarah's breath away, her eyes widening in shock and delight. She had dreamt of this moment, but nothing could have prepared her for the reality of it. Sarah, Akin continued, his voice steadying as he looked into her eyes. Will you marry me? For a moment, Sarah was speechless, overwhelmed by the rush of emotions that flooded through her. This was the man she loved, the one who had challenged her, supported her, and stood by her through thick and thin. She knew in her heart that there was no one else she wanted to spend her life with. Yes, 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 she finally whispered, her voice trembling with joy. Yes, Akin, I will marry you. I will. Akin's face broke into a wide grin and he slipped the ring onto her finger, his hands shaking slightly. The ring fit perfectly as if it had always belonged there. Sarah looked at it, then back at Akin, and in that moment, she felt a sense of peace and certainty that she had never known before. Akin pulled her into a tight embrace, burying his face in her hair as he whispered, I love you, Sarah, and I can't wait to start this new chapter with you. I love you too, Akin, Sarah replied, her voice muffled against his chest, more than you would ever know. They stayed like that for a long time, holding each other close as the world outside the cafe continued to move on. It was as if time had stopped just for them, giving them a moment to savor the love and commitment they had just pledged to one another. The days that followed were filled with joy and excitement as Sarah and Akin began to plan their future together. They decided to keep the engagement quiet for a little while, savoring the secret between them before sharing the news with their families and friends. It was a time of happiness, of feeling connected in a way they had never felt before. One evening, as they sat together on the balcony of Akin's apartment, watching the sunset over the Lagos skyline, Sarah felt a deep sense of contentment. They were planning their wedding, but more importantly, they were planning their life together, discussing where they wanted to live, how they would balance their careers, and the kind of family they wanted to build. I never thought I'd be so happy, Sarah said softly, leaning her head on Akin's shoulder. I was always so focused on my career, on my independence. But now I can't imagine my life without you. Akin kissed the top of her head, his heart full of love for the woman beside him. And I can't imagine mine without you. We are a team, Sarah. Whatever comes our way, we'll face it together. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting the city in a soft twilight glow, Sarah smiled to herself, knowing that she had found something truly special. The journey that had begun with a simple mix-up at the airport had led her to this moment, a moment of pure, unadulterated happiness with the man she loved. And as they sat there, hand in hand, they both knew that this was just the beginning of their story, a story of love, trust, and the unshakable bond they had built together. A story that would carry them through whatever life had in store, as long as they had each other.